What's up guys, today we're going to be covering the full blue loadout guide. We have done green and we have done red, so it's time to cook for the blue loadout and all of the timestamps will be down below. Let's get into it. Alright, we'd like to kick it off with the cheap loadout, which you can see here. We have the Moto Gloves Polygon. They're going to be field tested, which come in at $210. And I paired them with a Bright Water. In this case, it is the Bowie knife, which in minimal wear is $140. The Polygons in field test will pick up some scuffs, but overall they are one of the cleanest pairs of Moto Gloves in the game. And the pattern works quite nicely with Bright Water. So when you're working on that low budget, that's where you want to be. Now on the USB, I'm going to suggest you go for an Alpine Camo. This in minimal wear will only cost you $1.41. If you want to spend more, you can look for the blue gem patterns, but I think a base one would be absolutely fine. And of course, there is a bit of purple on this as well, but it is deemed a blue skin and it's very budget friendly. If you're wondering about agents, I will cover them at the end of the video. On the Glock, we're going to go Ocean Topo here. The fact this is 51 cent in minimal wear is such a good deal. And yeah, there's not too much more to say about this. This has become the new go-to budget Glock with the new update. Fantastic stuff. For the Desert Eagle, I did look at the blue ply because that would be the absolute cheapest one, but I think spending just about $2 for a factory new Sputnik makes sense. Now, all these prices are from the 8th and 9th of May 2025. I'm having to get ahead of content a little bit with traveling for the major, so there might be some fluctuation, but this is a very solid factory new deagle for $2. And it's pattern based, so have fun. Alright, I have two AK options for you. The AK-47 Rat Rod. Field test, it will cost you $3.50. It's a blue skin. It's by no means people's favourites, but it is pretty much the cheapest blue AK you can buy. The alternative, if you wanted a proper blue and didn't want to go for an ice cold, for example, would be the blue laminate at $14.40. I'm pricing for the Rat Rod because it is the cheapest of the two and keeps our budget low, and it's a decent starting point either way. The control panel is going to be my suggestion for the budget or the cheap Emperor A1S here. It's $5.22 in field tested. Yes, we can work towards upgrading to the likes of a Nightmare, but this for $5, as much as it's not my favorite skin, has a significant amount of blue to at least kick things off. If you're an Emperor A4 enjoyer, I'm going to apologize a little bit because this skin isn't my cup of tea, but for 54 cent minimal wear on the cheap blue loadout, it's kind of a no-brainer that you have to go for the Naval Shred Camo. You guys can let me know in the comments down below if you disagree and you go for something else, but for an absolute cheap budget, I think this is the right pick. I then also think the Aetheris in field test is the right decision for the op. It's blue base and then obviously has green accents on top, but overall works really well with the gloves. And I will note, kind of a recurring theme that the op options just kind of suck for blue skins in general, so it's a little bit tougher. We do have a very budget-friendly MP9 now in the buff blue. This coming in at 16 cent in minimal wear is really nice because until an update recently, we only had like Pandora's Box, stained glass, and no cheap blue MP9s. For the Mac 10, I'm going to run with a Lapis Gator. 64 cent in minimal wear for this is pretty solid, and overall the blues align fairly well with the Polygon gloves. I've got to say, the Polygon gloves and field test are holding up very well here, and one thing about the Bowie knife is it's like the OG movement knife, so that's like kind of nice to have. And then we're going to end off with the P250 here. If you haven't watched one of these loadout guides before, we go for the 10 most important weapons, making sure you get skins on them, and that is the priority, which means a 25 cent balance in minimal wear takes the total loadout cost to $367.87. So we're very much on our goal of coming between like the $250 to $400 loadout value for the cheap loadout, which is solid. Now, if we stepped it up to the value for money loadout, what can you achieve? Before I fully waffle about the new options, I do have to say the polygons could remain here if you wanted to, but I want to try and showcase as many combos as possible, so I would upgrade to the Field Agent gloves. They're $290 in field tested. You will have to deal with thumb wear. That's just a common thing with specialist gloves. If you can get over that, then lovely. And you want to go for a blue steel knife, especially in field tested. The colors align really nicely. I went for a Nomad here. It's $325. Of course, you could go more expensive or less expensive if you wanted to, but I think Nomad with Specialist just kind of vibes. And then you've probably seen it. Jawbreaker is going to be my USP of choice. I am going to field test it to save a little bit of money. It's $5.90. What I like here though is obviously it's got the blue of the dog on it. It doesn't go a little bit into purpley pinks as well, but then the yellow accents, especially when you inspect it, even using it in game, it's got blue and yellow like the gloves. Comes together really nicely. Now, there's a world you could also keep using the Ocean Topo. Again, wanted to try and get some other options in here, and I actually went for a cheaper Glock in the Winterize. I thought it fit the gloves a bit better. The other blue Glocks didn't really sit nicely on the same color, and I do think the top slider, although it's more grey, I think it actually pairs nicely with that like tertiary color on the gloves, so I'm a fan. We do have some similarities though. I'm going to stay with the Sputnik for the Desert Eagle. The jump up that we have here is too hefty, I would say, for value for money. And I still think this, with it being pattern based and having the, it's not like a yellow color, but it's that whitey cream color. I think it works well with the stitching that's on the gloves, and then the base color is so close to what the specialist gloves have. Once again, I have two AKs to showcase. I'm going to go for the more expensive one first this time because it is my recommendation. I think the Empress is actually a solid shout here. It is a heavily blue based skin. There are big elements of red there, and that's why this can also work with Scarlet Shamas, for example, but it has the gold of the Empress as well, which pairing in with the yellow aspects of the gloves, although you don't see them that much outside of inspecting it. I just think field testing for this for $37 is such a good value for money pickup. If you really want it more yellow and blue itself, then you probably want to look at the alternative, which is the Phantom Disruptor. Minimal wear, it will cost you $5.50. I think it's fair to say the Empress is a clear winner here, but if you disagree, let me know in the comments. I did reference the Nightmare during the cheap loadout. We can now make that jump to it. It's going to be minimal wear. It's just over $20. And it looks fantastic. This is one of the best M4A1S skins in the game, especially when it comes to value for money, so I had to include it. And while I could very happily make a claim for a field test to Emperor, I think Spider Lily is going to be the best pick here. It's just under $9 in minimal wear, and it was loved in CSGO. It feels like it's been slapped on a little bit with the transition to CS2, but it still holds up really nicely, and you guys have been showing more love to it in the comments recently, so I had to jump on that train. I did mention we have slight struggles with blue ops, which is why I'm going to continue on the Aetheris, but I'm going to upgrade from field test to minimal wear. Basically doubles the price, you get the $6.22, but this is still a banging op for the $6 mark, especially with how it pairs with the gloves. So I don't know, some people hate the Aetheris, I personally enjoy it, and I think it's one of the best skins in the game. I'm sure some people were wondering why I didn't showcase this in the cheap loadout. You probably can still squeeze it in, you definitely can. It's $5.82 factory new, but again, I wanted to showcase the range of actual upgradability in the blue loadout. So this at just under $6 factory new, the Cobalt Paisley is my choice here for the value for money. As I say, this was a nice ad because previously it was just Pandora's and just stained glass at like $100 plus each. I was keen to go a bit different with the Mac 10. I went Discotheque purely because of the gloves we're using. Obviously, when you inspect this, it goes pinky and then a little bit of like light blue in it. When you use it in Idol, it's also blue into yellow. Different shades of blue and yellow than what we have on the gloves, but it is there. So $5.40 for this. I quite like it as the pick, and it's something that little bit different that still works with the gloves. And then continuing on the same sort of theme as the Aetheris, having a nice blue base skin with other colours that work well with blue can be quite good here. The See You Later offers this because we've got green and also yellow. Obviously we've got yellow on the gloves, green and blue just works well together in general. So for $5 min wear, I really like this with the gloves we have here. And now the total cost for this is actually $712. So normally I set like a goal of around the $1,000 mark for value for money because I think ultimately where the market is in CS2 right now, that's the sweet spot. But I am really happy with this coming in at $712. It's pretty solid. And now we take the step up to the expensive loadout, which means we do jump to minimal wear amphibious gloves that come in at $2,100, but they do start to look very, very clean. And then I want to pick an M9 Doppler Phase 3, which is basically the same price, just under $2,100 in factory new. A lot of the cost of the loadout, I'll be honest, but there's something about how Phase 3s look with the amphibious, and especially M9s with sports gloves, just slap. So this is an absolutely fantastic combo. Yes, you can go for Sapphire if you want to spend more, but that's probably getting to the ultimate loadout. Now, USP side of things, that Aetheris See You Later vibe continues with the Monster mashup. I'm going to go for a minimal wear, which is $35.85. Heavy blue base with the green accents on top. I used a Phase 3 knife and the Monster mashup when I ran amphibious, so of course that's what I'm picking here. Now, it's at this point where I feel like the gloves allow me to get a little bit more creative. I don't think any of the blue Glocks work that well with amphibious because the color shifts are just like, they're a little bit off for me. I do, however, like the Neo Noir with it. Yes, it's not full blue, it's white, black, with pink, with purple, with blue. But I think with the amphibious and the ability to craft on this with like blue stickers, even stuff that's blue and pink stickers with a holo effect, I think this just looks good, okay? And the next thing I'm a big fan of is the Starcade here. $69 for minimal wear. What's good about this though is, it is, well, I would say it's purple with a good amount of blue. CSGO Skins calls it blue as a skin, which is kind of interesting. This with the amphibious, again, with those lighter blues, again, the purple also complements the blue really nicely too, and it's got this glitter effect. It's just a banging Desert Eagle, so this is 100% my choice at the expensive loadout. Now, I refuse to show any more love to case hardened AK, so I am going to go for the Inherited tier in minimal wear for $130. I ran a Battle Scarred one with my amphibious. I absolutely loved it. I think this is a really solid combo. One of the best combos you can run for glove and AK at the minute in the game. And this is where a little bit of hear me out is required, because I go super expensive in the M4 and I go for an imminent danger minimal wear. I inspected this by accident and I just loved the amount of blue on the skin that actually pairs with the blue of the amphibious. It's over $1,100, but in idle, this actually kind of works really nicely with the gloves. So rather than going for an Icarus Fell or a Blue Foster, which are good options, I think you go something a bit more unique that works really well and has craft potential. Now, I didn't have two AKs this time. I do have two M4 A4s. The first one is the Emperor. This, for me, is the flat-out no-brainer option. I think Emperor with Amphibious looks absolutely fucking fantastic. And the fact that it's $42.70 for minimal wear for one of the best-looking M4s in the game, it is a no-brainer. But at this point, if you want a little bit of white in there, you can go for the Neo Noir. Now, this will be a little bit of a theme you guys see. Neo Noir with Amphibious, for me, just works because of the white accents and the fact there is blue and pink's a good complementary color. Overall, though, the Emperor is still definitely the right choice here. And I couldn't use an Aetherius 3 times in a row, so I have to go for the Op Neo Noir. Again, the white with the blue, it just kind of works. This is the one area that I'm very open to having a debate with in the comments, guys. So, like, let me know if you think at this point I should be going for a different op. But I just don't love the other blue options. I don't like the Man of War. I don't think the Corsair is that good to go for. So, it leaves it a bit lackluster. At this point, though, we do get to go to the Pandora's box. And this is another one. I think with the Amphibious gloves, the colors are just perfect. We've got, like, 2 different shades, actually 3 different shades of blue on the gloves, and those are almost replicated 1-for-1 on the Pandora's box. So it's almost $200 these days, which is a little bit crazy, but it is a very, very good combination. And don't worry, although it's an expensive loadout, it doesn't mean we're forcing it to be crazy expensive. We can go for a Mac 10 Pipsqueak here, which is $1.15 minimal, where I think you guys collectively agreed on the video I did looking at the best combos with the Amphibious that this was the right choice. And my skin that I'm happy to remain the same is the P250 See You Later. Exact same pricing, it's minimal wear. I think it does the job here nicely for us, and what that means is we do end up looking at a loadout that costs $5,863. So it's not as crazy as the expensive loadouts have been in the past, but it's still pretty chunky. The one note is, like, you can save, I don't know, close to 2k by going field tested gloves and just going for a different Phase 3 Doppler. So there is room to move things around if you want to, but let's go on to what is just the absolutely crazy, ridiculous amount of money, which will be the ultimate loadout. And of course, we have to go for the superconductors, and I am pairing them with a Sapphire. Now, what I like about Sapphire is the handle accent color on the butterfly pairs very closely to the palms of the gloves, which is really, really nice to have. And obviously the pattern of the Sapphire can have light bits of blue that working with the light blue on the gloves. So the gloves are $9,200 plus. I did find a pair listed for $9,200, but after that, all the prices went high at the time, and the knife is almost $15,000. Now, I do have an alternative on the knife if you want. Now, according to CS2 this is a tier 3 diamond gem Karambit Gamma Doppler Phase 1. You guys, if you've been in the Discord or know, I don't love the whole diamond gem thing. I have a bit of fear of Valve just randomly updating like how they look and killing what people are paying massive overpay for. This is just over $6,000. I will agree. It looks better with the accent colors of the gloves in like idle, but I still like how the Sapphire looks on the butterfly with the accent colors. So in the comments, guys, let me know which knife here would you pick for the ultimate loadout. Now at this point, everything is factory new, and I think going for the Cayman USP is actually the best play. In idle, I quite like the blue it offers with the superconductors, also with the sort of dark grey coloring. When you expect it, you do get that secondary color, which isn't 1-for-1 kind of perfect, but in idle, and the fact you can probably pay a little bit overpay, get some nice old stickers on this, is very nice. And on the Glock, we just go crazy expensive. We're going to get a Twilight Galaxy for $201 in factory new. I was saying in some of the other loadouts about trying to get the colors 1-for-1. In the ultimate, we kind of just throw that to the side, and if it pairs perfectly, fantastic. If not, we're spending as much money as we can. Like on the Desert Eagle, we're going to go factory new hand cannon. Now, This is actually a surprising one. When I tested it in game the first time, I was like, in idle, the colors aren't too dissimilar and it actually looks kind of vibey. So, you know what? We got to get some love going for the hand cannon again, even though it's at a crazy price. And you guys should have seen this one coming for the AK. Of course, it's going to be a factory new Vulcan, one of the OG, like, iconic combos of Counter-Strike, I'd say, for gloves and AK. $940 for the AK. It is just crying out to have a nice craft on it and live in your inventory long term. This is also when I shift back to a cheaper M4 that I mentioned, like the Icarus Fel. I think $600 for factory new Icarus Fel is 100% the play here. The blue phosphor blues are a little bit too different, where at least on the Icarus you get like 3 to 4 different shades of blue, all working quite nicely, and some old Cloud9 crafts on this would go banging. And then we also go for the Poseidon on the M4A4. I will say the artwork's a little bit outdated on this, but it still is that like kind of ultimate baller loadout for blue. It's $1,350, which is kind of nuts. And speaking of nuts, for the op, I'm not going to go Gunya here because it isn't actually like the best pairing. I'm going to go with Medusa, which is $5,250 plus for factory new. Now, I could waffle plenty about how I wish there was more scope design, blah, 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 but we have to agree, this is, artwork-wise, when you inspect it, a very nice skin. And some of the blues that you get on the snakes are very close to the blues on the superconductor gloves, which I quite like. This is where I shift the MP9 to the stained glass, again, because some of the blues, I think, are actually very close to the blues of the gloves, and it works really nicely. So if you want to go Pandora's box, by all means, spend that extra $70, you can. I do think stained glass is the right pick here. When I prepped the video, I wasn't planning to suggest Neon Rider as like the ultimate Mac 10, but that turns out it just is. The blues aren't one for one, and I've said that a few times, but the blues are close enough, and it's also just a crazy artwork Mac 10. It is only $13, so in the grand scheme of this loadout, quite cheap, but for Mac 10s, it's kind of as expensive as you're going to get here. And then we ended off with the P250 Undertow, just an older one that you can go hunt to get old stickers on it as well. Base pricing, you're going to be looking at $41.50 for factory. I've always been a big fan of this P250, just never really been able to work it in to my own loadouts. Now, what this means for this loadout cost, if you went for the Butterfly Sapphire, you're talking $33,000. You could save, I'm looking at it now, $8,000 if you went for the Karambit Phase 1 Tier 3 Diamond. That's a fucking mouthful to get out, which would take you down to like the 25k mark. So either way, it's a pretty nuts costing loadout. I am having to sneak in the agents here because I kind of forgot to do it while recording initially, but if you were looking for agents, I think you want to go for Blueberry's Buckshot, for example. Pretty solid option. Dead Cold, also decent option, but I think Blueberry's Buckshot would work quite well with like polygon gloves. When you're on the field agents, you want to go for Special Agent Ava because that's a 1-for-1 pairing. Once you're on superconductors and the amphibious, I think you want to go for Ricksaw or Rex Crikey because they're sleeveless. It means there won't be a clash. On T-side, there's not really anyone that screams like actual blue vibe going for it. So what I always will say is you want to skip down to one of the Darrell agents. Now, you could vibe out with Little Kev. He will just be sleeveless in game and idle. You're not going to see anything extra, but he looks cool. I think going for someone like Sir Bloody Silent Darrell, who has silver accents on him and looks cool, like you'll see silver watch, silver jewelry, also kind of works. And on the amphibious, potentially you consider like number K for the white sleeves. That's kind of it for the agents. Just had to add that in. And there you go, that is the blue loadout guide completed. We went from cheap through to value for money, to expensive, and now to ultimate. Hopefully it will help you out a little bit with building a blue loadout, or maybe you just wanted to see what my thoughts are. I am going to end it there. We're going to limit the waffle at the end of the video. I am just going to say thank you to the YouTube members that are supporting the channel. It is greatly appreciated. Now that we've hit 8 YouTube members, you guys get showcased on the front page of my channel, which is super cool. So that's another benefit you'll get if you hit that join button down below. I'm going to end it there. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button if you're around here. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching. Good.